Dear Ambassador Volmira, I noticed a distinct lack of reply on our personal matters, and only a request I continue the report. You seem agitated today. I also noticed the human hand bruise across your face, the knuckles clearly indicating someone took a punch at you. Having inquired what happened, you owe the human ambassador an apology. The Black Watch member deserves a promotion for the bruise upon your face. I would have had my guards do the same. Further, because of the initial refusal by the humans to seek colony rights, doubling down and demanding rights to a moon within the Sol system isn't going to have the effect you think it will. Humans do not work in the way of intimidation. They also will not view that moon as a token within the negotiation to be given up by us. They will take it as a personal insult. But if you insist I continue, I shall. So today I will continue with sections 5 and 6, at the end of which I will make a statement you had better take to heart. Section 5. The Human Blackwater Navy. Yes, the humans refer to their space forces as the Blackwater Navy. Apparently, space to them appears as the colour black and water the colour blue. So the names Blue Water and Blackwater denote ships that are used in space versus those used on the water. Allow for me to begin with explaining human ship design. Human ships are designed in a way that favours no particular kind of combat. You have large-scale cruisers and battleships, which have a combination of missiles, point-defense multi-barrel weapons, short-range plasma throwers, and railguns that run the length of the ship, referred to as their Mach cannon. Mach, standing for Magnetic Accelerator Cannon, it is their railgun, and they literally put cannon in its name twice. Not as a joke, mind you. This also means that regardless of engagement, you can never be sure the same tactics will work against the same size of fleet. You may have one encounter with 12 vessels, and they be small skirmishes, then another that is 4 dreadnoughts, supported by 8 escorting frigates. The main weapon is made to engage a ship so long as you have sensors on it, or can put a telescope towards the target to eyeball the calculations. Yes, I have seen a human eyeball a shot on 4 occasions. They hit 3 of those shots with rough math done in their head. This can reach out to several hundred megametrics, or what the humans call kilometers. The actual range of the weapon is only limited by gravitational well, treaties prohibiting stray shots hitting planets, and sensor range. If they can detect you, they can shoot at you. While you can avoid them at longer range, at a certain point you are too close to dodge, and the weapon will hit you. At all costs, avoid close quarters battle with a human ship. For this, and what will be explained tomorrow, in section 6. Since space lacks drag and only gravity affects your shot, the weapons have been known to impact planets years later. It is why the humans are required to do extra calculations to determine any planetary bodies in the direction they are firing by treaty, which no doubt you noticed and may be confused by. A railgun round impacted a Jikol farming planet, destroying roughly a 3 megametrics radius and leaving a huge crater. While only some cattle animals died in the blast, the humans paid for the damage to the planet, repaired it, and signed a treaty to add algorithms to their system to prevent the microscopic chance they will hit a known habitable world, years or decades later, should they miss. They even installed an extra firing supercomputer that requires several megawatts of power per hour to function on their ships to obey this treaty. That is correct. Rather than change themselves over to energy weapons that lack this problem, they love their railguns so much, they would rather install a dedicated firing computer to prevent an accident and replace them. These are their main capital ship weapons. While we build weapons in turret mountings or in semi-gimbal mountings, the Terrans literally build their ships around their guns. Yes, Ambassador. A species so crazy, they decided that instead of turning a turret to shoot at something, they would turn the entire ship. Smaller ships equipped a variety of weapons for a variety of purposes. carriers to unleash thousands of fighters, destroyers to chase down frigates, corvettes, or patrol vessels, frigates bristling with anti-missile and anti-fighter weapons, corvettes for hit-and-run tactics, and patrol ships for sensor screening. A single human cruiser on average has 7 escorts, and every single vessel has its own fighter emplacement. Unlike our smaller escorts that may carry 3 or 4 shuttles and 6 fighters, even their smallest corvette carries a dozen fighters, usually externally on docking clamps. This in addition to its weapons, which anything above patrol craft size carries a railgun as its main weapon. The Terrans firmly believe that if they build their ship around their guns, they need a human hand to guide the weapon to ensure it hits the target. I can assure you, they are trained by the same individuals who are in the Terran Air Force in my previous letter, as they use the same tactics and brand of insanity mixed with the special kind of crazy it takes to agree to live on a ship in the void of space. The void that wants you dead at all times. As you may have noticed, space wants to kill you, and is only prevented by a layer of alloys, separating you from it. While their energy weapons are inferior to ours, their multi-barrel weapons, called Vulcan, Gatling, and miniguns, are terrifying. Anything from 3,000 to 30,000 rounds per minute is able to be poured out of them. Again, the Terrans throw rocks at their enemies, and they mount these weapons to everything they can, including their infantry, fighters, point defense, and other weapon systems. What we would give to get that tech in our own ships, but the Terrans closely guard it and the design from us. We have tried to build them with limited success. If only we could get this to work with plasma and not melt the entire weapon system from prolonged firing. Perhaps this sort of technology truly only works with the humans throwing rocks. Now, let me explain the insanity of their propulsion systems, referred to as spacefold technology. You see, normally a specialized ship is required to create a stable hyperspace gate for ships to pass through. That is why we have hyperspace lanes. Pre-scouted routes for ships traveling faster than light, to avoid both time dilation effect and to avoid running into something on the way between point A and point B. I am sure you have heard of the unusual and insane ways Terran ships fold space. They create a microsingularity and cause the points between point A and point B to become equal to 0. No species that is sane would do this. The amount of power required to do this is beyond our top scientists' comprehension. The Terrans use a generator on a home system to make a microsingularity that they just hold inside of containment fields on their ship. You heard me correctly. A Terran ship is a moving, railgun-using armoured miniature black hole. If their containment breaks, the entire ship will implode, then explode in a heaping gasp of a microsingularity. Or at least it should. The humans somehow figured out a way around that little defect with their reactors. They can shut it down. Something to do with fusion reactors and quantum entanglement. We have been studying one of their operational stolen reactors for nearly 55 years, and still cannot exactly tell how it works, much less reverse engineer it. Further, the power generated by these drives is how they power their Mach weapons. Now, we do have singularity drives of our own. These are not some unique technology to anyone, but the Terrans are the only ones to use them. Because, let's face it, if the containment fails, you suddenly have no more problems to deal with, and are just a statistic. No Terran ship has ever been consumed by its core failing. Human ships, however, do have one flaw. Their shields are not very strong. Human shields lack the development of many other vessels, and this is why Terran ships are ugly. They are brutally constructed blocks made by the section around their main armament, Mach guns. They are constructed with shields, yes, but the Terrans do not expect their shields to last more than a few hits. No, their ships are constructed using something called a honeycomb fashion, what we refer to as hexagons. Interlinked and interlaced are large areas of the ship that act as spacing between sections, but are still environmentally sealed and intact. Meaning, plasma that penetrates one of these honeycombs won't be able to spill into another. Further, their ships are lined with massive, thick armor plating around each interlocking honeycomb. Their ships are cramped, with every millimeter possible being spared for armor and plating to reinforce the ship. They made them in the idea to be able to withstand their own railgun weapons, but instead it has proven quite effective at stopping energy discharge weapons of other species. Often a single Terran ship requires dozens of direct hits from full weapon complements of ships of equal size to cripple it, and at least 3 more to kill it. Not to mention the various secondary weapon systems on board, meaning that even if you render its MAC gun useless, disable its shields, engines, sensors, and damage control systems, the individual weapons will still keep trying to fight back. You must stay and kill the ship, entirely, every single time. If you do not, you will find missiles flying from a dead ship you overlooked, or a point defense weapon turned to close quarters battle armament against your ship's hull, or one of the Terran turreted plasma blasters erupting into your ship's belly because you thought it was crippled, only to find out that the emergency signature you thought was just for emergency life support has been rigged to power a still useful plasma barrel. Let me illustrate this to you with the tale of the defeat at Rubnar 4. You may remember it as a human victory. The Terrans call it a Pyrrhic victory, after a human general who won a battle but lost the war, because he lost so much in winning he could not afford to keep fighting. At Rubnar 4, the Terran allied fleets had retreated or been destroyed. The Terrans' remaining elements were crippled in one way or another against the Galactic Scourge, the Grogarians, a galactic race of goats intent on committing acts of cannibalism against other sentients because of their religion. Now, the Terrans could have retreated those ships, but they chose to stay and hold out over our colony there. Realizing that after the initial waves of enemy ships, all the ships they had left were mostly crippled, the Terrans decided to show us what a crippled ship could still do. They positioned their vessels among the debris of the battle in space, shutting off all of their systems that could be detected, but put them into an emergency boot-up method. The Grogarians would go searching through these wrecks, of course, for more prey to butcher. The Terrans knew this. They also knew this next Grogarian fleet would be the end of them, in a stand-up fight. The Terrans carefully prepared the battlefield, scavenging every weapon system that they could, and having crews manning what were effectively unpropelled hulks of ships that still had some functional weaponry, even going to alien ships and bringing generators to power the weapons for firing shots. No life support, save for their own exosuits, and no hope of retreat or maneuver. They waited. The Grogarians, eager and excited to finally get spoils, and their sensors detecting no active ships, believing the ones they did detect were crippled, rushed in with boarding parties and brought their vessels in close. The Terran flagship, named after the mountain on Terra called Fuji, had no main weapon to use, but it did have missiles and extra fighter engines that could be converted to missiles. Yes, the Terrans literally converted spare parts into weapon systems and prepared to unleash them. The moment the Grogarians got into close range and started boarding, they found out 2 things. 1, a crippled Terran ship is still bristling with weapons that can kill you. They found this out about 383 times between the flagship Fuji and the hundreds of supposed wrecks in the battlefield space. Almost all of these wrecks were part of ships that, if put together, would form one vessel, but we had to record each as a separate wreck due to the Terrans changing the designation so they knew who was where. 2. Terrans still hold a separate but equally important Marine Corps, to be gone over in the report tomorrow. The victory may have been costly, but the Grogarians have refused to raid anywhere Terran ships are present after that battle, and since no one has formal diplomatic ties with them, we cannot get them to say why. This is the navy you propose we attack. We outnumber them 10 to 1, but I would consider any one Terran ship a feat of engineering to take down and keep out of the fight. The Fuji, by the way, is still the current Terran flagship of their navy, with her sister ships Everest, Denali, St. Helens, Elbrus, Splunk, and Aconcagua. The humans apparently named their flagships after mountains. The class of vessel I speak of is called the Phoenix class. That wasn't its original name. However, it was redesignated to be named after a mythological creature that resurrects itself, for the ship class's propensity to keep getting back up and able to be repaired, even after catastrophic damage. The Terrans name most of their ships after famous individuals, such as Roosevelt, Tokugawa, Churchill, Confucius, or places on Terra of importance: New York City, London, Hong Kong, Moscow, Paris, Rome, Kiev. So if you ever see a Terran ship up close, you will also notice a lack of standardization among their capital ships, with each one having some tweaks based upon where it was named after. While the United Kingdom class battleship is considered the same kind of ship, every one of them has variations of guns, missiles, armor, and other quirks, a thing that makes them all unpredictable. But if you see a Terra flagship named after a mountain, you should begin to worry, especially if that name is Olympus Mons. That vessel is the latest in the Phoenix class, and is considered an upgraded variant that comes in at 20% larger than her sister vessels. Now, I will discuss the reason the Gregarians are afraid of humans in my final piece of my report, the Terran Marine Corps. End Section 5, the Terran Blackwater Navy. Sincerely, Admiral of the Fleet, Vlakar. Admiral of the Fleet from circa 2402 to 2504. Dear Admiral of the Fleet, Vlakar. First of all, you continue to hint at these Terran Marines, yet I cannot find any combat records of ours showing what they are capable of themselves. Is there something I am unaware of concerning their classification? Training? Am I not privy to the highest of classified documents? Second, you still owe me an apology, and now I am formally submitting paperwork for a reprimand of you. 2, in fact. One for your refusal to grant me an apology, and now a second for your endorsement of an enemy agent giving me direct physical harm. Though you were correct, I should also submit a formal request for inspection of your warrior house this instant. The bodyguards from House Raptor did not stand a chance against those Royal Black Watch thugs. As soon as one struck me back for daring to throw a vase at their ambassador, mind you, the other one managed to deflect the vase. Both of your guards were slain within moments. You were astute in that those oversized swords they carry are not for show. At this time, it has been determined further meetings on this matter will not take place in person due to the strain upon normal diplomatic channels. Ambassador Volmira.